Well, hello and welcome to our listeners and our viewers. This is Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm your host today, Phil Sharkey, and I have the great pleasure to speak with my friend and a recurring guest here, Marc Z Legal Staffing. Marc, you're the president of the company, and welcome. Good to see you again.
Great to see you. Great to be with you, Phil, and talk about subjects that are important to our listeners.
Absolutely, Marc. So segueing right into that, as we were talking off air a little bit, tell me what's on your mind today. What have you brought for our attention for the listeners?
So, in terms of attention, what is becoming more and more evident, we have attorneys that have worked for the government, whether it's the Justice Department, whether it's the Labor Department, federal workers, federal attorneys that are now in the marketplace in different capacities. So, for law firms, now there are some specialty attorneys, some talented attorneys that firms are starting to look at. There are also every person who has a federal government background who's been affected by the layoff is now in the marketplace. So there is an increase in a talent pool, and some individuals and prospective employees have very relevant experience that could be very helpful to employers, whereas other prospective employees do not have backgrounds and but might be candidates that other government agencies in state government would be interested in terms of whether or not it's Massachusetts, Rhode Island, any possible states. So the employees are definitely talent pools that a lot of companies and organizations and firms are looking at with positive sigh, because now
Sure.
they have a labor pool that could be very helpful to them, to their operation. At the same time, there's still a question whether some of these employees could go back to the federal government because of what's going on in the courts.
Right.
So we've talked to a number of employers, and they're looking at the talent pool as a positive, because if they find somebody who's a qualified employee for some of their needs, they're going to hire them. And a lot of the employees, those prospective employees, are saying to themselves, "I don't want to be on an on again, off again situation
Right.
because of my personal circumstances." At the same time, a lot of employees are sort of in a holding pattern and want to wait because they want to go back to the federal government, having served the federal government and love their jobs. So it's a balance that both employers and employees are operating under, and it could be a good talent pool for private industry, but at
Hmm.
the same time, you want to be respectful to the federal government, particularly because of some of the positions involved.
Marc, are you seeing it seems like such a time of transition, such a fluid time frame? Are you seeing from your contacts where, as you mentioned, these people are interested and maybe have had enough and want to go into the private sector, or sort of it seems like there's options for the people where my initial thought process was very negative and dire for them, but it seems like you're seeing that there may be options for them between the
Right.
federal going back to federal or having other options.
Correct. The more um, skills, the more skills that they can advocate that they have that could be helpful to private industry jobs, the better chance that they'll have in advocating themselves to be qualified for private industry roles. Employers are going to look at their backgrounds, look at their skill set, look at their experience, and be prepared to move on candidates, especially candidates who, by no reason other than a government layoff, were they available. So you have
Right.
some very talented people that are available and may be available for entry level, mid-level jobs. The question is the higher level in terms of experience, in terms of type of job, in as far as management, higher level management, or attorney roles. Then it comes to be whether or not they have the experience to segue over because of the needs of the private industry firms, organization, or companies. So
It
it's
seems like
it's a
Marc.
It's a balance.
Yeah, it seems like in a big catchphrase in my industry and background screening is be proactive, not reactive. And it sounds like
Right.
a very successful private industry firm right now being proactive can really gather some very talented individuals who might be in a state of flux.
Correct. Because these are employees who, but for their situation, would not be available. And they're also talented people that wanted to serve in the federal government. So it's a time where employers will want to look very um, very closely at some talented people and see if these prospective employees could fit a number of their needs. What we're seeing is um, there's definitely some crossover experience that would be applicable to a number of the positions that private industry firms or companies have. So there's definitely a talent pool, and some of the people who are up for the positions who will come from public government positions are saying that I'm not going to take a chance. Here's an opportunity.
Hmm.
I want to move forward. So as you say, it's being proactive, and you just don't know in terms of where things might stand in terms of going back to your position. So that's what a lot of employees are looking at, and a lot of employers are examining too.
Yeah, Mark, it sounds like a real opportunity for people to grab some very talented individuals for sure. So I do want to remind everyone we've been speaking with Marc Z of Marc Z Legal Staffing. He is the president there, and this is our Marc Z Moment. So, Mark, as you know, if our listeners needed to get in touch with you, how would they go about trying to reach you?
Well, first of all, Phil, go to our wonderful Radio Entrepreneurs website, radioentrepreneurs.com. Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C, and the letter Z, M-A-R-C-Z legal.com at marczlegal.com, and 617-338-1300.
Excellent. Well, Mark, it's always a pleasure when we get a chance to talk. I look forward to our next interview, and everyone will be back with more stories on Radio Entrepreneurs.